Montreal 2007, my first pole position.
Lewis Hamilton leads in Montreal.
Despite problems, I remained focused.
Oh, that's a big accident.
Lewis Hamilton wins!
What a drive, what a mega start.
Montreal 2007, wicked.
Now 2008, he's back to do it all over again. Part 1 has been achieved with consummate ease. Lewis Hamilton is on pole position for the Canadian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton in great shape and great spirits, but so much can still go wrong here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Track conditions, weather concerns, it's going to be another afternoon of great tension here in Montreal. It's a high-speed circuit, this one, that demands the absolute maximum of brakes and tyres and, of course, the drivers as well. Lewis Hamilton was the absolute master of this place a year ago, and you have to say Mark Blundell in qualifying yesterday, he was a class apart as well.
He was outstanding. His lap was superb. Commitment, the last chicane, he was airborne, all four wheels off the ground, and he was some 0.6 of a second quicker than the second place guy. And yeah, he's pulverised everybody. I think psychologically he's already beaten them.
So he's in great shape, but the concerns ahead of this race, certainly the weather. Some are saying heavy rain maybe within the space of the next couple of hours.
Yeah, a lot of the forecast with the teams at the moment saying between 1 o'clock, maybe 1 and 25 past, there's going to be rain. Small showers, but I mean that will put something into the mix for sure. Some guys at the back of the grid quite looking forward to some wet weather.
And the track conditions, great concern about the way the track was crumbling in some places yesterday, and further concerns today.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of concerns actually, and even on a parade lap when the guys go around, the drivers in the parade cars just to see the crowd, a few of them jumping out by the hairpin, looking at the new surface. It's about a metre strip of concrete epoxy resin style surface. It's very slippery. It's been used in North American racing for a long time. Very low level of grip. Not such a good thing for the guys.
This could be the race that has absolutely everything, but it's got Lewis Hamilton on top of the Drivers' Championship as we head to this 7th round of the Formula One World Championship. 3-point lead over Kimi Räikkönen. Massa a point behind in 3rd. Robert Kubica right in touch as he continues the hunt for his first Grand Prix win. He's on the front row with Hamilton today. And from the sports point of view, well, it needs another driver to get to the top step of the podium, because since Lewis made his breakthrough here a year ago, only 4 drivers have tasted victory. Räikkönen taking 7 wins, winning the world title on the way. Hamilton 6, Massa 3. Räikkönen, Hamilton and Massa have taken 2 wins apiece this season. Alonso a couple, and all of them were to the fore in qualifying yesterday. Here's James Allen's qualifying report. You can always rely on a fantastic party atmosphere here in Montreal. But what was very unpredictable yesterday was the track breakup in qualifying at turns 7 and 10. It led to a lot of problems for drivers getting grip out of the hairpin, but one man found the fastest way through. It's happened before here, but never quite so starkly. The asphalt shredded, causing lots of cars to either spin or lose vital acceleration. Mark Webber and Jarno Trulli came a cropper, while Alonso and Rosberg dealt with it well, en route to 4th and 5th places respectively. Jenson Button couldn't take part in qualifying after a gearbox problem, while David Coulthard could only manage 13th. Robert Kubica held provisional pole as the Ferrari struggled for grip on the shale coming out of the hairpin. But Lewis Hamilton had been fastest in qualifying 1 and qualifying 2, and with the last lap of the day, he took a tight line through the turn 10 hairpin and stuck it on pole. So Hamilton on pole by 0.6 of a second over Kubica, the biggest margin we've seen for 2 years.
It was a nice qualifying session. I'd be on top of each Q1, Q2 and Q3. And at the end, to see the gap we had, I was a bit surprised by that. But it was a good lap. I did feel it was very good.
What do you put that gap down to?
Great car, I think. Great engine. Good driver and great team.
It will be a difficult race because of the track conditions, and as I say, it's quite big lottery. If you miss braking point, you can lose 1 second and or even more. So it's a bit disappointing.
Very happy with the car, but then coming the qualifying and the circuit breaks down, and just one corner I couldn't find. Every time I end up on the marbles every lap, so you lose easily half a second. So it's a shame, but at least we're in the 3rd place, so it's not too bad.
Probably some of the guys behind me did some mistakes, and I took the benefit because 4th for sure for us is an unexpected result.
So let's take a look at the grid for what's bound to be an eventful Canadian Grand Prix. 8th career pole for Lewis Hamilton. Kubica has now outqualified Heidfeld, his teammate, at every race this season. 5 different makes of car in the first 5 spots. Raikkonen and Alonso on row 2. It's Rosberg and Massa on row 3. Row 4, Kovalainen and Heidfeld, who finished second here last year. Barrichello did a great job in the Honda to get into the top 10. Mark Webber had a spin and a crash. Glock and Nakajima on row 6. Row 7, David Coulthard and Jarno Trulli outqualified here by his young teammate. Nelson Piquet still struggling in that Renault with Adrian Sutil alongside him. Row 9, Fisichella and Sebastian Bourdais in the new Toro Rosso. And starting from the pit lane because they worked on their cars after qualifying, Jenson Button and Sebastian Vettel.
So how was Lewis Hamilton so much quicker than everyone else yesterday afternoon, especially in the final sector?
Yeah, that's where it all came from. It was the final sector. He came down that straight 200 miles an hour into the last chicane, and he took a line which nobody else has been taking, and I think Lewis has saved that line for himself just for that one qualifying lap. All 4 wheels off into the air, and probably made 3/10 of a second just on that one chicane itself. That's where he made it really count. But the rest of the lap was perfect as well. An aggressive style driving, what's needed around this circuit, and something that we've seen Lewis do time and time again.
Is it just a question that he's braver than everyone else?
I certainly think there is an element of bravery because, being very honest with you, if you get it wrong there, you're going to pay for it in that wall of fame, as they call it now. But it is something that Lewis seemed to have up his sleeve, and I think he kept it until it was needed.
But it is great to see 4 manufacturers on the front 2 rows of the grid.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see 5 different cars in those first 5 slots. And I think BMW really made a surprise for me. I didn't think they were going to be there, definitely not in the front row. And Kubica pulled one out the bag. And let's see if he's got a light fuel load on board. But definitely there's something there into turn 1 between him and Lewis.
Well, the big talking point among the drivers yesterday evening was the condition of the track, that track breakup that we've been hearing about. None of which seemed of great concern, though, to Lewis Hamilton. And Martin Brundle now looks at that superbly aggressive lap that put him on pole position.
The Gilles Villeneuve circuit for the Canadian Grand Prix. It's 2.7 miles in length, 70 hot and hard laps this afternoon. Let's take a look at Lewis Hamilton's amazing pole position lap. The track is breaking up in places. It's much hotter than they expected. The tarmac then is very slippery. Down into turn 1, 190 miles an hour. A little puff of smoke off the left front wheel, but he just across the curb. The car's off the ground completely, and he slams the throttle, stays right to save a few metres as he crosses the line now. Brilliant pole position on a difficult racetrack.
It's not really the high-tech image Formula One likes to portray, men having to come and sweep up the crumbling track in the middle of qualifying. And while it's true the cold winters here do take their toll on the tarmac, the organisation in Canada has left a lot to be desired.
The track is the same every year here. It breaks up, and you need, I think we bring motocross bikes tomorrow, not Formula One cars.
As soon as you go 5 centimeters offline, you're gone. You lose all the grip, and you lose a second. So it's very, very difficult.
You effectively end up with like a train track of where the line is, and if that doesn't quite suit where your car is, then obviously you're off on the marbles.
They need to find a solution because it's not the real racing anymore, and if it breaks down in 3 laps in qualifying, how it's going to be after 70 laps?
Very disappointing to see such a conditions already in qualifying. In the race I think will be a big disaster, but for everybody the same.
This happens every year to a certain extent, but it was the freshly laid tarmac that melted and broke up. The old track was fine.
This year I tried with a different type of compound and a different method, different technology for laying it down from what we used in previous years, to no avail.
Well, it's really only when you get down to the hairpin that you realise how bad the problem is. Huge sort of scrapes of tarmac cut away, and it's very easy to see why. I can pick away whole bits of this tarmac. It's just really soft, and it comes away, and you can crumble it between your fingers. The only way to fix it, is what they're doing now, is just to concrete it over. It doesn't look very pretty, and it might be bumpy, but with an extra top coat of an epoxy resin, it should do the job. But don't blame us, say the circuit, it's actually the car's fault.
We were informed earlier in the year that the absence of traction control might create a problem with the asphalt. Also, the tires are more aggressive. You know, the corner, the radius has been the same for pretty much for the last 30 years. But what has changed indeed is the cars. So we know that's where we have to look at.
Jarno, you were one of the drivers who was most affected by the track conditions yesterday. You've just been around and had a look at it. Are you happy with the fix that the organisers have come up with?
It's ridiculous, but That's the way it is. The track condition is really bad at the moment and will get only worse during the race.
So you think it's going to cause more problems during the race?
Yes, especially because the condition, warm, hot, long race.
Thanks, Jarno.
And there is particular concern, Mark, about the track conditions, especially down there at turn 2, where Charlie Whiting, the chief safety officer, has been having a very close look. What are the options in situations like this?
It's difficult to actually say what the options are, because the race is about to start within the hour. And the other problem, you've got support races, what have already been running around this circuit this morning. You've had Ferraris, Porsches, everything like this, been churning up the surface, and we've got a whole Grand Prix distance to go. It's not ideal, and I have to say, this day and age, we really should have a facility and a surface which is ideal for racing cars on, and a crumbling surface just does not work with a modern day racing tyre.
It must put so many doubts in drivers' minds when they're tempted to stray offline. Does this strengthen Lewis's position going off pole position?
Well, in some ways Lewis has got a difficult job, because he's going to be the first guy to arrive at all these corners with the crumbling surface, and he's got to judge how much grip is going to be available when he gets there. But saying that he should be able to cope, but it's not ideal. There's no way you should be driving almost like a wet line on those tram lines looking for grip. And if you do come off of there, you're going to get onto the marbles and this broken surface, and you're going to be off. There's no two ways about it. You'll be off the circuit.
It would be a great shame if a thing like track conditions spoiled the prospects for an outstanding race here this afternoon, especially coming 2 weeks after a Monaco Grand Prix, which reminded us of how exhilarating and how exasperating Formula One can be.
Well, historically, a drop of rain at Monaco has tended to turn the race from the processional to the epic. Slight hesitation from the Ferrari Raikkonen. Hamilton has taken advantage and has steamed up the inside.
A bit of a clumsy moment there for Jensen. We're watching Glock, who spun in the final corner.
Oh, Lewis has hit the barriers, but he's got a right rear puncture.
Alonso with suspension damage.
I hit the barrier.
There's a lot of water then at the top of the hill, because then another 2 or 3 cars pile in by the looks of it. Oh, and Massa's got in too deep. Kubica's beginning to take it. Everything to lose, not a lot to gain at this stage.
But one more stop to make, then Hamilton's looking pretty good.
This is a critical phase of the Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton making the absolute most of it.
Oh, big shot!
Oh, Raikkonen's hit him! Raikkonen's locked his brakes! And that's a cruel, cruel moment for Force India.
Hamilton, though, has been supreme, Martin.
But it's for real. He's right there. It's brilliant.
Lewis Hamilton wins the Monaco Grand Prix.
I apologise for hitting the barrier, but I made up for it, so let's go and party tonight, alright?
What an understatement. I made up for it. That was a brilliant and memorable victory. The first English driver to win Monaco since Graham Hill in 1969.
Well, ahead of that fantastic Sunday, a very strange Thursday. Max Mosley, his first visit to a Grand Prix since revelations about his private life in the news of the world. And in Paris on Tuesday, he duly won a vote of confidence to enable him to stay on as president of the FIA, the sports governing body. But what has been the damage to Formula One, and what problems still lie in store? I talked to the Formula One Supremo, Bernie Ecclestone, this morning, and asked him what the vote of confidence meant to Formula One.
Well, really and truly, it shouldn't have in any way affect Formula One, because I mean he was the president before, he's still the president, so it shouldn't have any change at all. The problem is the reaction from all the large companies, most of the companies in Formula One are large companies, that say if these things happen to them they'd have to resign their position, and they don't understand why the FIA haven't taken that attitude. But that's up to the FIA. Have decided not to. They had a vote. They decided not to do anything, leave things as they are, so that's how it is.
What sort of things are you hearing then in that respect from large companies and potential sponsors?
Purely that they just are a little disappointed, that's all I suppose you could say.
What do you feel then should be Max's long-term future as president of the FIA?
Well, as long as the FIA want him to stay as president, that's how it should be, obviously.
The mood in the paddock, how do you gauge that? How do you gauge the depths of support, or maybe the lack of confidence in the paddock behind Max Mosley after the events of the last few months?
Well, I think the problem is that the large companies which own all the teams, or are involved in some way with the teams, they're having to say what their bosses are telling them, I suppose.
Some people are saying that the ingredients are there now for maybe some kind of a split between Formula One and the FIA, some kind of breakaway. What do you feel might be the events of the next few months?
No idea. I mean, those ingredients, whatever they are now, have always been there. I mean, when we had a Concord agreement, the teams were a little bit more tied than the manufacturers to us, and that's why we're trying to get the Concord agreement back on track. At the moment, the teams are here. They have no idea what the regulations are going to be for the future or what's going to happen to them for the future, so they're concerned.
Well, the sport has to move on, but there is a feeling that the damage has been done, and the mood has certainly changed, hasn't it, Mark?
Oh, definitely. If you just talk to people down the pit lane in the paddock, you talk to sponsors, you talk to drivers, team principals, everybody's got a view in it. And I have to say, I think the view is quite negative in many ways. I think Max Mosley is in a position which is quite difficult for him. But saying that, you know, there's a lot more to come out, I'm sure of that, and we'll have to wait and see what develops.
But the positive thing is the sight of a capacity crowd packing this Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, which is celebrating its 30th Canadian Grand Prix by hosting this 7th round of the Formula One World Championship. Track surface apart, very popular with the drivers, not least because of its proximity to the varied cultural life of downtown Montreal. So if you're struggling with form and performance, there are other much needed distractions. That's certainly the case for BMW's Nick Heidfeld, as Louise Goodman discovered.
Montreal's Old Town has a thriving art scene. It might not seem like the obvious place to find a racing driver, but it's the first place Nick Heidfeld heads when he hits town. Heidfeld's a big fan of Canadian artist Zilong and has several of his works in his growing collection.
Probably the first painting I bought was in Paris on the Montmartre,
Yes.
like you would imagine.
When you were how old?
I would say probably 6-7 years ago, something like this, maybe 7-8 years. I would now say it's not the most fantastic painting, but it was a nice experience being there with my girlfriend. Then the guy told us he would show us where he was painting, and we went, I don't know where in Paris, into a small building, very small place where he was painting, showed us his little place there, and it's just a nice memory. And then, as I said, probably here I started 5 years ago, and I have the most paintings from Zilong. I nearly bought a Warhol painting or picture.
Nearly bought?
Yeah,
Why
I
didn't
didn't
you?
like it perfectly. I think it was Matahari, and my girlfriend really liked it. I was not sure, and then we said, oh, okay, then we wait.
Bet that wasn't cheap.
It was okay, so that's why I'm not so happy that we didn't buy it, because now the price has gone up. On the other side, I firstly buy pictures and paintings because I like them. Of course, if they go up in value, fantastic, but it's not the motivation.
The other passion in Heidfeld's life is, of course, his racing, and Montreal's been pretty good for that too. Looking back 12 months ago, most people, the big thing they remember was your teammate Robert Kubica's accident, but that really did overshadow what was a fantastic result for the team as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a fantastic result for me, a good one for the team. Obviously, they were not so happy with Robert. They were just very happy once they saw that he was okay. And yeah, for me, it was a great race, starting third and finishing second. It's the second place for the team until then, and was a great race, yes.
You were very much the top dog last year in terms of results. Robert seems to have picked it up this year, largely, I guess, as a result of the problems that you've been having with your tyres in qualifying. Just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, that's how I would put it. Probably other people would put it differently, but I'm convinced that I'm struggling to get the tyres to work. At the same time, Robert is showing some really good races and qualifyings. And yes, it's just having a good season so far.
When you say other people put it differently, how do you mean?
Well, there's always two ways to look at it, you know.
Yeah.
People who don't like you or think you're not a good driver, they say, I always knew he's whatever, he couldn't drive, and I tried to look at it myself. I think I've shown over the past that I can drive, and this is a bit of a unique situation at the moment.
There's been some bad luck as well. I mean, just looking back to the last race.
Yeah, the last two races I was unlucky. Last race, Alonso drove into my car, and I had a puncture, and that was it for me. Until then, actually, was okay.
It must frustrate you immensely to be in this situation, doesn't it?
No, frustrating would be the wrong word, because that would mean I would stop working and just complain, and I hate the situation, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I do everything to get out of it, but I'm not frustrated.
Well, Robert, a year on since that accident, I'm sure everybody's been asking you about this weekend, but how's it looking? Possibility to win the race even today, you think?
I don't think so. I mean, it can happen, but the pace-wise, I think we are not as good as Ferrari and McLaren, so it will be a tough race. I hope for podium and good race pace.
You've just been out having a look at the track. How does it look down at the hairpin since they've laid that concrete?
Well, there are different patches in different corners. Corner 10 is very dusty, very dirty. They put some white stuff on it, so also corner 1, corner 2, it's new tarmac, which is very oily, so we will see. It will be quite a tough race.
Thanks, Robert.
Well, very shortly the grid will be assembling for this Canadian Grand Prix. We'll be there with Martin Brundle. Also to come in our race build-up, our Saturday evening conversation with Lewis Hamilton, and the next instalment of our 60 Years of Silverstone feature. That plus the ITV F1 competition right after the break. Capacity crowd here in Montreal. They've had the drivers' parade and most of the pre-race activity, and now they're seeing the cars head out onto the grid as we get into the final countdown for this Canadian Grand Prix. And a confident sense of expectation around Lewis Hamilton in that McLaren garage. They know they've got an advantage. They know they had a great day in qualifying yesterday, but turning that into race victory is another prospect today. And there was a similar atmosphere in this garage yesterday evening when I joined Lewis an hour or so after he'd clinched that pole position. Lewis, you're on pole position. You've seemingly got a significant advantage, no problem. So how good is a moment like this Saturday evening in the garage?
I think it's sweeter than ever. You know, the guys don't have too much work to do. You know, I kept the car out of the wall, and we're on pole position.
I mean, everyone is smiling in this place, and probably they've been smiling ever since Monaco, I would think.
I'm still living the dream for everyone out there, you know, and it is an amazing feeling to win the Monaco race. I think all the work that we've done, myself and my family and the team, to get to where we are, it was all worth it.
Was the feeling as good as winning here for the first time a year ago?
It was better, and it was a great feeling. You can see the way I celebrated at the end. Yeah. I had so much emotion in me. The last 20 laps, I was like, you know, I know years ago Senna was leading by 40 seconds a minute or something like that, and I know he put it in the wall, and I was thinking, okay, I've got to learn from his mistakes, and I really felt that I did.
These walls are pretty close. Now, how do you actually judge it? How do you measure it? How do you position the car lap after lap after lap, millimetres away?
It's a good question. I don't really know. It just it comes to me, I guess. My last sector was 8/10 quicker than Kimi. I mean, I don't know how he must be feeling right now, but I know I feel great. To be honest, I think I gained a little bit of time in turn 10 from my previous lap, but I think it was the chicane. I'd been saving it for the chicane. You know, at the end of the day, everything I do, my teammate can see, and other people can see with onboard cameras. So I didn't want to show my cards too early. And I remember coming down that back straight, I said, okay, this is a lap, I need to pull it out. And I managed to pull, I think it was 3/10 on that lap, just in the chicane. So that's a phenomenal feeling when you're able to do that.
So another faultless weekend so far. I have to mention it, your father got behind the wheel this past week. Have you had the chance to really analyse what exactly went wrong?
I've just been laughing. It's bad at me. I shouldn't. But I said, Dad, how do you spin? How do you crash a car at 30 miles an hour?
Yeah, but your father emerged from it all with a greater respect for what you do in this cockpit, I'm sure. All the best tomorrow. Are you going to give the boys the rest of the night off?
Yeah, fortunately tonight the cars have to go back into Parc Fermé at 6, so the guys are off for the night. My mum's here and my dad's here, so hopefully I'm going to go out for a nice meal. We get to bed early, prepare for tomorrow. It's an earlier race tomorrow, so fingers crossed.
He's so confident, he's so relaxed, but there are so many things that he has to get absolutely right from pole position in this Canadian Grand Prix. Now, before we get Martin Brundle in action on that grid, let's get him to work behind the wheel as we continue our series celebrating the great cars that have featured through the 60 years of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. This afternoon he's going back into the turbo era of the 80s.
This is the sound.
I was an aspiring driver, so I was looking at Formula One from the point of view of a fan who, really wanted to have a go.
It was up to your talent, up to your balls to get a lap time done.
2008 marks 60 years of Formula One Grand Prix history here at Silverstone. Today we're looking at the turbo era. Fearsome cars, just 1.5 litres, but in qualifying trim over 1200 horsepower. Surely the most powerful Formula One cars that will ever exist. Look at this beauty, a 1986 Lotus 98T as raced by the legendary Ayrton Senna. Notorious. 8 of Senna's 65 pole positions were achieved in this memorable creation, the fastest Lotus of all time. The races though were often economy runs with limited fuel tank size. Turbos would be banned from 1989.
Forget everything after. The 1986 turbo cars really was rockets, and to handle them, I think you had to be a man.
Incredible acceleration! I love that throaty sound of the Renault engine, tremendous. Oh, listen to that. What a lovely bar, lovely sound. Heading up to Beckett, giving a bit of a squeeze on the brake pedal. See if he can roll those brakes up a little bit. I love the view from this car. It's so good to see out of. You can see the whole track sort of being hoovered up by the car. Listen to this power. Incredible acceleration. Oh, lovely. Very direct response on the steering. We handle well enough. Little understeer. Car's a bit cold. I'm going to be careful with the traction. It just feels and looks. It looks really, really classy inside this car too. What a privilege to drive this car, where Senna flying straight at the wheel. It's so smooth, so easy to drive. It's great, it just sticks to the road. I can see why Senna's so confident in this. No wonder he was so successful in this wonderful, wonderful car. So pumping the throttle. Senna used to do that a lot, trying to build that boost. Can you hear that? Bark! This is just in race through. Maybe what it's like when they close the race gates off the qualifying. We used to jump back in it after practice in the morning. It had 400 horsepower more just because they pumped up the turbos. Another 50% power. Wonderful experience, just spot on.
The car was beautifully done. This black color is the black composite work of the monocoque, and then on top of it, Senna driving it and putting it in ball all the time. I mean, the whole package came as a successful, fantastic looking package out of the 80s, where maybe was the most spectacular time ever in Formula One.
Ayrton Senna, number 12 in the Lotus, leads. There is the checkered flag. Ayrton Senna has won a super.
60th anniversary of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, a month away. Go to the Silverstone website for tickets for Friday practice and Saturday qualifying, but race day is now officially a sellout. But 2 of the last tickets available, they can be won in our ITV F1 competition.
This weekend we're giving you the chance to win a VIP trip for two to the Santander British Grand Prix on the 6th of July, where you'll watch the action just feet away from Beckett's Corner. You'll be given a pair of VIP tickets to the Santander Premier Club Lounge, both qualifying and the race, where you can enjoy a gourmet lunch, unlimited champagne and guest appearances whilst enjoying the best view of the circuit. You'll also have transport to Silverstone from anywhere in the UK and accommodation on Saturday night. Here's Lewis with the question.
If you want to win a fantastic trip to Silverstone this year, courtesy of Abbey and Santander, just answer the following question. Which of these is a famous corner at Silverstone? Is it A, worms, B, slugs, or C, maggots? Good luck.
Just give us the correct answer and you could be on your way to Silverstone. To enter, call 0901 293 2020. Calls cost £1 from a BT landline. Calls from other networks may be higher and from mobiles will be considerably more. Or text the word F1 and your answer A, B or C to 63337. Text costs £1 plus one standard network rate message. Digital, satellite and cable viewers can enter by pressing their red button now. You can also enter for free at itv.com. Entrance must be 18 or over and lines close at 5 p.m. on Tuesday the 10th of June. Entries made after closing won't be counted but may still be charged.
And go to the ITV F1 website for further details, not only on the competition but on all aspects of the sport, including video streaming of each day of every Grand Prix, practice, qualifying and the race. But now let's get you down onto that grid here in Montreal. 30 years of the Canadian Grand Prix here at the circuit. Gilles Villeneuve, a capacity crowd and a tremendous atmosphere down on the grid. We've just seen Martin Brundle in the cockpit of the Turbo Lotus. He's facing another demanding, high-powered few minutes right now. Let's go to Martin on the grid.
Thank you, Steve. 2 weeks ago we had a wet track in Monaco. Today we've got a disposable one, it seems. I think it's going to play a major part of this race. Down at turns 1 and 2 they're putting sort of some sticky stuff on, resin, bandaging the place up already. The drivers have been told and the teams have been told on the way to the grid, please don't use the apexes of turns 2, 7 and 10 where they're still repairing it. Absolutely unbelievable. Do you know what? It's not out of the question today that they may have to introduce the safety car into the race to just sweep and clean the track up a little bit if it breaks up too much. It's going to play a key role this afternoon. Let's see if we can get a soundbite from the drivers and anybody else on the grid. Lewis on pole position. This is a 200 mile an hour street circuit basically, completely surrounded by water. You would never know it sitting on the racetrack, but there's nowhere to expand. It's surrounded by walls and barriers, so if you do go off you're guaranteed to have an incident, and of course they can't clear the car away too easily either at the same time. So major problems with this track, but it is super fast. Let's see if we can just find Robert Kubica. Robert, just a quick word, we're live. No, okay, let's see if we can find another one. And I must get a soundbite from one of these peddlers. Kimi is on the grid. He never really talks to us since he said rude words on the grid in Brazil. Kimi, quick word. Kimi, quick word. One line. We tried. Okay, we're going to find somebody. I'm absolutely determined we're going to find a peddler to get ourselves a soundbite of what is going on the racetrack. Where's Fernando Alonso? He's not even on the grid at the moment, by the looks of it. Flavio, you're getting married next week. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Who's the lucky lady?
My wife.
I know, your future wife.
Elisabetta, ciao.
Good luck with that. We're going to try and find your driver if he's around. Is Fernando around? He's gone. He's gone and he's finished doing interviews. Right, we are going to find somebody, I promise you, because I need to know what it's like out there on the racetrack. Where's Nico? Is he about? Right. Oh, he's putting his balaclava on, for goodness sake. Nico, quick word? No? Okay, I don't blame you, to be honest, mate. I really don't blame you. Here's a Ferrari. I'm quite enjoying this now, actually. Felipe, a quick word about the track, please. Top man, thank goodness for that. Thought I hadn't got any friends left on the grid. What on earth is it like out there? You had to avoid apexes.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say. I think they changed the track from last night, and I heard people saying that it's even worse, so we need to wait and see how it's going to be in the first laps to try to find some shortcuts.
So how can you possibly know how hard to attack those critical corners in the first lap or two?
Sometimes by instinct, sometimes I mean just I'm not the first car, maybe I can see what the people do in front of me. So, and it's like in the rain when you start in the rain and you don't know how is the track. So it's a little bit like Monaco.
It's a day to stay on the tarmac, huh? Good luck. Let's see who else we can find. Michael Douglas is on the grid somewhere. I wanted to have a quick word with him if I can find him up the sharp end of the grid. It's absolutely amazing that the drivers have had to come to this grid and have not been able to use certain parts of the racetrack and find out just what it's like. Can you come through there? Right, where is he? If he's still on the grid. So we can't even see him. Here's Bernie. We've been able to have a word with Bernie. Yeah, that's all right. Hi, Bernie. Yeah, don't talk to them, Bernie. We're very live here. Yeah, Bernie. There's some pikeys out there putting some new tarmac down at turn 10 apparently. Are they out of the way yet?
I think it's all right, isn't it?
Do you reckon? I think it could be quite difficult.
For who?
Well, the drivers. You know,
but it's the same for all of them. It's not just for one person.
No, I know that, but I think we could have accidents where they just catch a little bit of debris, a little bit of this stuff on the side of the track and straight in the wall.
Absolutely. They can go into the wall, as you well know, being a driver, without that happening.
Well, that's true, as we often did. So, aren't you shocked by that?
No, not at all. As I say, it's the same for everybody. Like if it's raining, it's the same for everyone. It's not a big problem.
All right, well, I think we're in for a pretty eventful afternoon. Who's your money on? The guy at the back of the grid who stays on the road?
Well, you know this race always produces a strange result, doesn't it? You know, every race here is the same. You've got to put your money on Lewis at the moment.
Yeah.
Who knows?
All right, good stuff. Lewis unquestionably is looking extremely strong here. Can't find Michael Douglas, but I know where Steve Ryder is.
Yeah, I'm still here, Martin, and we're impressed with your efforts. We're all Felipe Massa fans now, but Mark, Bernie Ecclestone has a unique method of calming a crisis, doesn't he?
It seems that way. It's fortunate for Bernie that he's not driving one of these cars, because I can assure you that it's going to be very difficult. You know, what Martin said as well there, exactly that. You go into those corners, you've got no understanding of what's going to be there. And it is like wet conditions, as Felipe Massa was saying. You know, you're always just inching your way in to try and find a level of grip. It's unbelievable this day and age, as I say, that we've got a circuit like this with a surface as it is, and it shouldn't really be the case.
And it's extraordinary that drivers are being given the instruction as they head to the grid to stay away from the apex of the corner. It shows how fragile the situation is.
I've never heard of that before. I don't know, maybe we'll get some traffic cones out there as well and somebody directing the traffic for us, but it's not really ideal, is it? And these guys, you know, they've got enough pressure on their shoulders without having to go into a race not understanding what level of grip's available, and it's only going to get worse. This is the best of the best we've got to start with, and it's going to go gradually south from there onwards.
Other elements today, rain is a distinct possibility. We're hearing forecasts that range from the next 45 minutes to the next hour and a half, but it is heading this way. We've also got a strong wind, and a lot of drivers were observing that affected the performance of the cars yesterday.
Yeah, the wind is an effect on the cars. Crosswinds, they just hit the cars, take them off a line, and again, that's difficult for the guys if they've got those crosswinds, taking them off line, just getting onto that rubble and the bad surface. It always amazes me that the wind does affect these cars, but they are very sensitive to that. It's going to be difficult for people on the front row. Lewis and Kubica, in some ways, maybe Lewis will like to be second going into the first corner, because he just doesn't know what there is there to expect, and we'll see what pans out.
It is really into the unknown. That doesn't give you the impression of the capacity crowd that we've got here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, but we have got one, and it is a really fantastic atmosphere, and especially with a McLaren, a BMW, a Ferrari, a Renault and a Williams, the first 5 cars on the grid. Ron Dennis there, the McLaren boss. A final word with Bernie Ecclestone. But there's concern about this track, there's concern about the weather, concern about the almost guaranteed intervention of safety cars, but for Lewis Hamilton, the concern for him is getting it absolutely right off pole position, just as he did a year ago when he drove to his maiden Formula One victory. We're back with a final countdown to the start of this Canadian Grand Prix right after the break.